The text message glowed on my phone screen in the darkness of my car. St. Augustine's Chapel, 2 p.m. You need to see this. Unknown. My hands trembled as I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, watching as guests trickled into the small stone chapel through the blur of my rain-splattered windshield. I'm Julia, and right now, I'm sitting here like some amateur detective, wondering if I've finally lost all sense of reality. My husband, Eric, told me he had a conference in Seattle. That's what his calendar said. That's what his assistant confirmed. That's what the hotel reservation showed. And yet here I am, parked across from a chapel in Austin, because some anonymous text has upended everything I thought I knew. This is insane, I whispered, but my hand was already reaching for my sunglasses. The bells began to toll mournfully as I stepped out of the car. My heels clicked against the damp pavement, each step carrying me closer to a truth I wasn't sure I could handle. I slipped in through the chapel's side entrance, my back pressed against the cold stone wall. The scent of incense and old wood surrounded me, bringing back memories I didn't ask for. 7 years ago, I stood in a similar place hand in hand with Eric, promising forever. The organ began to play, the sound loud and jarring in my ears, and that's when I saw him. Eric. My Eric. Standing at the altar in a crisp black suit I didn't recognize, hands clasped, that all too familiar tick in his jaw giving away his nerves. He's not in Seattle. I gripped the edge of the pew as my knees threatened to buckle. My breath caught when she appeared, the bride, walking slowly down the aisle, her dark hair flowing, her familiar silhouette unmistakable. Kara. My best friend. The woman who helped me choose my wedding dress. The one who spent summers at my family's cabin. The woman I trusted more than anyone else. The priest began speaking, but his words were drowned out by the deafening silence in my mind. My husband and my best friend, standing in front of everyone, exchanging vows of love and fidelity, vows he'd already given to me. I don't remember leaving the chapel. I don't remember driving home. What I do remember is sitting in my pristine kitchen, the one Eric insisted on remodeling last year, watching the sun dip below the horizon through windows that now felt like bars on a cage. My phone buzzed. Eric. Conference running late. Don't wait up. The audacity of his lie nearly made me laugh. Instead, I poured myself a glass of the whiskey he kept for special occasions. It burned going down, grounding me in something real when everything else felt like an illusion. My phone buzzed again. Unknown, now you know. What will you do about it? I stared at the screen, their question echoing in my mind. What will I do? I laughed, the sound sharp and foreign, slicing through the quiet. I opened my laptop, my fingers moving with purpose. Dear Aunt Meredith, I hope this email finds you well. I've been thinking maybe it's time to organize that family reunion you've always wanted. Because betrayal isn't just about the act. It's about the intricate web of lies that came before it, the innocent smiles, the casual reassurances, the way they both made me feel like I was crazy for ever doubting them. Eric has always been a smooth talker. So has Kara. But they forgot one thing. I'm just as good at their game. I took another sip of whiskey, the bitterness matching the anger in my chest. Let them have their moment. Let them think they've won. Because I've got time. And I have something they don't. I have their trust. The photo album felt heavy on my lap, each page a reminder of memories that now felt like lies. There we were, the three of us at 16, Eric, Kara, and me, sprawled across the grass at my uncle's cabin. Eric's arm was thrown around both of us, as we laughed at some forgotten joke. Dinner's here. Eric called from downstairs, his voice echoing through the house like a ghost. His footsteps thudded up the stairs, each one grating against my nerves. 3 days. 3 days since his wedding to Kara, and he's been acting like nothing happened. Like I don't know. He pushed open the door, holding 2 plates of Chinese takeout, his usual peace offering. Remember when we used to get Chinese with Kara every Friday? I said before I could stop myself, the word sharp as glass. Eric froze for half a second. Blink and you'd miss it. But I didn't. That was a lifetime ago, he said carefully, his smile forced. Was it? I stood, letting the album drop to the floor with a heavy thud. The sound made him flinch. Julia, he said slowly, setting the plates down. He approached me with that same placating look he used when handling difficult clients. Have you been drinking? I laughed, the sound cold and sharp, my mother's laugh after my father left. Is that your move? Gaslight me into thinking I'm crazy. His expression flickered. I'm worried about you. When did it start? The question burned my throat. Before our wedding? After? Tell me, Eric. Was I the cover story or the backup plan? You're not making sense, he said, his voice too calm. But his left hand twitched, his tell when he was lying. 7 years together, and I knew every one of his habits. Funny how the cracks shine brighter when you start looking for them. I was at St. Augustine's on Tuesday, I said, my voice level. Nice suit, by the way. Better than the one you wore for our wedding. The mask slipped for just a moment, his eyes going cold and calculating. This was the real Eric, the one I had refused to see. It's not what you think, he said, his voice low. Don't. I cut him off, my voice firm. Don't insult me with excuses. I watched you marry my best friend, Eric, while I sat in this house being your perfect, oblivious wife. What should I think? Ack runs a hand through his hair, a tell I've cataloged after years of marriage. It's complicated, Julia. There are things you don't understand. Like what? I snap, my voice cutting through the room. The joint accounts you opened? The property you bought? Or maybe the fact that your father knew the whole time. That stops him cold. How did you? I let out a humorless laugh and moved to the dresser, pulling out the stack of papers I've spent the last 3 days gathering. I'm not the fool you think I am, Jack. You should really use better passwords than our anniversary date. Though I guess that doesn't mean much now. Julia, please. He takes a step forward, reaching for the documents. I hold them back, my grip iron tight. Work this out. Like you explained your business trip to San Francisco? I spit, slapping the bank statements, property deeds, and emails onto the bed like a deck of poison cards. Or should we talk about the trust fund Hazel set up for you and Lily's future children? His face goes pale. You had no right, he growls, his voice shaking with fury. I had every right. The scream tears out of me, raw and primal. I'm your wife, Jack. I was her friend. We grew up together, all 3 of us. And you, my voice breaks, my breath coming in harsh, uneven gasps. He stares at me like he's never seen me before. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe I've never seen myself either. Get out, I say, my voice steady now, hard as steel. This is my house, too. Not anymore. I pull out one final piece of paper, a power of attorney he signed last year when he was too busy to handle our estate planning. You really should read what you signed, Jack. I step back, refusing to look away. Now leave, before I call Sam and have him escort you out. He doesn't leave because he's afraid. He leaves because he knows this is just the beginning. Jack knows me well enough for that. I pick up the old photo album from the floor, flipping through pages I no longer trust. There we are at 17, sprawled across my aunt's porch, grinning like idiots. Jack's arm draped casually over Lily and me. 3 friends who swore on everything that we'd never betray each other. Perfect liars. The cafe feels smaller now, though maybe it's the weight of what I'm about to do. Or maybe it's that everything from my past feels insignificant now, shrinking with every betrayal I uncover. Lily slides into the chair across from me, still wearing a wedding band that matches mine. The sight makes my coffee taste like acid. I didn't think you'd come, she says, her fingers tracing the rim of her untouched latte. Funny, I say softly. I didn't think you'd marry my husband. She flinches. Julia, did you know about the trust fund? I interrupt, sliding a stack of bank statements across the table like cards in a rigged poker game. What trust fund? She asks, blinking in genuine confusion as she scans the documents. The one Hazel set up for Jack and your future children, I say, watching her carefully. $3 million. Guess I wasn't producing grandchildren fast enough. Her face goes pale. This can't be right. She pushes the papers away like they might burn her. Jack said the marriage was formal. Just for the inheritance. I laugh, a hollow, jagged sound. What exactly did he tell you, Lily? That he loved you? That I was cold, obsessed with work? That's what he told his father about me last month. Her head snaps up, her eyes wide. How do you know that? Because, I say calmly, pulling out my phone, I've spent the last week learning how thoroughly Jack has been playing us both. Do you want to hear the recording? Him discussing how your family's real estate connections helped seal his investments. My family's. Lily's voice trails off. Hazel, her mother, owns one of the largest real estate firms in Austin. Jack knew that long before he ever asked me out. Did you ever wonder why he chose us? I ask softly. Two best friends who swore they'd never betray each other. It was the perfect cover story. Stop, Lily says, standing abruptly. Her chair scrapes against the tile. You're trying to hurt me because I hurt you. I get it. I deserve it. But, sit down, I say, my voice sharper now. She freezes, more from shock than obedience, then slowly lowers herself back into the chair. Remember that summer internship Jack arranged for you at Hazel's firm? The one that convinced your mother he was such a perfect guy. I slide another document toward her. Look at the date on the property transfer. Her hands shake as she reads. This is my mother's signature. But she would never sell that property for half its value.
She didn't know she did.
Check the witness signatures. Her face crumples as realization hits. This is my handwriting. You notarized it, Lily. I say gently, though the words are bitter in my mouth. While you were planning your wedding to him, Jack was using you to steal from your own family. She looks up at me, really looks at me for the first time. What are you going to do? I stand, gathering the papers. Wrong question. The real question is, what are we going to do? Her brow furrows. You have two choices, I say, pulling a small USB drive from my bag and setting it on the table. You can keep playing his game and lose everything. Or you can help me take him down. This drive contains everything. Your family's connections, Hazel's properties, my savings. Jack's entire plan was built on the assumption that we'd never compare notes. She stares at the drive like it might explode in her hands. If this gets out, everything burns. I place my hand over hers, feeling the cold metal of her wedding ring that matches mine. This time, Lily, we'll be the ones holding the matches. Her fingers close around the drive, and for the first time, I see a flicker of the friend I once knew. Lily's gaze holds mine, fierce and unrelenting. It's a glimpse of the friend I used to know, the one who is unstoppable when crossed. When do we start? She asks. I smile, and for the first time in weeks, it feels real. We already have. The dining table is covered in chaos, bank statements, deeds, emails, the artifacts of betrayal. 3 empty wine bottles sit on the counter, mocking me. Not my usual poison, but tonight isn't usual. My phone buzzes. Another message from Jack. Jack, please. Let's talk about this rationally. Rationally, I mutter to myself. Like the systematic way he built this house of lies. Like the calculated precision with which he played us both. Another buzz. This time, it's Lily. Lily, Hazel is asking questions. We need to move faster. I shut the phone off, but my hands tremble. The weight of what we're planning finally hits me. This isn't just about Jack anymore. This is about families, reputations,
Lives.
The doorbell rings. I freeze for a moment, then hear the familiar click of a key in the lock. Only one person besides Jack has that key. Jesus, Julia. Charlie's voice fills the room as he steps into the chaos. His eyes scan the papers spread across the table. When's the last time you slept? Did you know Jack's father killed himself? My voice is hoarse, but steady. Charlie freezes mid-step.
What?
10 years ago, right after Jack graduated law school, I push a yellowed newspaper clipping across the table. Officially, it was a hunting accident. Unofficially, I shove another stack of bank records toward him. He discovered that Hazel and Jack were embezzling money. For years. Christ. Charlie sinks into a chair, his face pale. Does anyone else know? Just the person sending me anonymous tips. I tap the burner phone resting on the table. They sent me this today. I slide a scanned copy of a suicide note toward him. William tried to stop them. Charlie. He tried to expose them, and my voice cracks. Charlie reaches for my hand, but I pull away. I'm becoming them. The words taste like ash. All these plans for revenge. For justice. I'm turning into exactly what I hate. No, you're not, Charlie says firmly, leaning toward me. You're protecting people. Hazel's company, your future, Lily's. Am I? I pace the room, my chest tightening. Or am I so focused on destroying Jack that I don't care who gets caught in the crossfire? What about Jack's sister's kids? They'll lose their college fund when we expose Hazel's financial schemes. Or Hazel's employees. They'll lose their jobs. What about Alexander? He tried to do the right thing and died for it. I grab an empty wine bottle, clutching it in frustration. What does that make me? Charlie is quiet for a long time. Then, he gently takes the bottle from my hand. You want to know the difference between you and them? I look away, but he presses on. You're standing here at 3 in the morning, torturing yourself about the consequences of your actions. They're sleeping peacefully, counting their money and planning their next move. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. Charlie starts organizing the papers, stacking them methodically. But it means you have a choice. You can expose everything dramatically at the reunion, like you planned. Or what? I ask warily. Or we do this the right way. Legally. Carefully. He holds up William's suicide note. We finish what his father started. But we protect the innocent first. The burner phone buzzes again. Another message from the unknown source. Ask Hazel about the offshore accounts. I stare at the message, then at the mess of documents. 7 years of lies and betrayal scattered across my dining table. Okay, I say finally. Show me how to do this right. Charlie nods, already dialing his phone. First, we need to talk to someone who specializes in financial fraud. I know a guy. Wait. I grab his arm, forcing him to look at me. Before we do this, I need to know, are you helping me because I'm right? Or because I'm your sister's? His gaze holds mine. Both. And neither. I'm helping because someone needs to stop them. And you're strong enough to do it without becoming like them. I look at the empty bottles, the scattered evidence of my near descent into their world. Maybe Charlie's right. Maybe there is another way. The lawyer's office feels sterile, all polished mahogany and neatly stacked files. Thomas, a financial fraud specialist, spreads a series of documents across the table. I'm fixated on a single sheet, a list of names. Children, mostly. These are the beneficiaries of the trusts connected to Hazel's accounts, James says. If you move forward with this, those trusts will collapse. How many people are we talking about? My voice sounds distant, hollow. Directly? Around 30. Indirectly? Hundreds. This isn't just exposing fraud. This is dismantling a system that's been in place for generations. Charlie leans forward. But we can prove it easily. The question is whether we should. My phone buzzes. Lily. Hazel found the missing property documents. She's calling Laura today. Charlie reads over my shoulder. If Hazel confronts Laura directly, everything falls apart anyway. How long would it take to protect the innocent parties? I ask James. Weeks. Months. The door bursts open before he can finish. Isabella steps in, her designer heels clicking against the floor. Her usual composed facade is cracking, her eyes wild. I should have known you'd run to Charlie, she hisses. James stands abruptly. Laura. My daughter works in this building, James. Did Julia tell you that part? Did she tell you how many families she's willing to destroy for her revenge? That's rich, I say, standing to face her. Coming from you? Charlie steps forward, placing himself between us, but Laura barely spares him a glance. Her focus is entirely on me. You think you're protecting people, Julia? Her voice is cold, deliberate. William thought the same thing. Look where that got him. The room seems to shrink, the city noise outside fading into nothing. My knuckles whiten as I grip the back of a chair. What did you just say? Laura's smile is sharp enough to cut. Did your anonymous friend forget to tell you the full story? William didn't just discover what we were doing. He tried to stop it. He tried to fix things, set up protections for the beneficiaries, just like you're planning. And you stopped him, I whisper, the pieces clicking into place. The hunting accident, it wasn't an accident, was it? Laura's gaze flickers, just for a moment. The point, Julia, she continues smoothly, stepping closer, is that some systems can't be dismantled without destroying everything they support. You're not just fighting Jack or me. You're fighting decades of carefully balanced arrangements. Arrangements built on lies and theft, I snap. Arrangements built on necessity, she counters coolly. Did Jack ever tell you why he married you? Your family's connections, 3 generations of judges and prosecutors. You are the perfect shield. My phone buzzes on the table, Hazel's name flashing on the screen. Take the call, Laura murmurs, her voice almost soft. Listen to Hazel. Hear what her daughter's been hiding. Watch another family shatter. Or, she pulls out an envelope from her coat and sets it on James's desk. We can discuss alternatives. Charlie's voice sharpens. Julia, don't. What alternatives? I ask, my voice even, though my heart pounds against my ribs. A clean break, Laura says, gesturing toward the envelope. A generous settlement. The innocent parties remain protected, and everyone walks away unscathed. Everyone except justice, Charlie snaps. Laura laughs softly, her gaze locking onto mine. Ask yourself, Julia, do you want justice or do you want peace? My phone buzzes again. Emma's messages join Hazel's calls. The list of names stares up at me from James's desk. Children, families, futures that could be undone by a single choice. How long do I have to decide? I ask, the words tasting like surrender. Until Hazel finishes reading those documents, Laura replies. She moves to the door, pausing to deliver one final blow. Choose wisely, Julia. Unlike William, you still have a choice. The door clicks shut behind her, and the room feels both too large and suffocating. You can't seriously be considering this, Charlie says, his voice low but urgent. I pick up the list of names, then glance at my still buzzing phone. What if she's right? What if trying to fix this makes everything worse? That's fear talking, not justice, Charlie counters. Maybe, I murmur, turning to James. But what if fear is trying to tell us something important? The phone buzzes one final time, then falls silent. Whatever Hazel discovered, it's too late to stop it now. I pick up Laura's envelope, its weight pressing against my ribs. I need to talk to Lily, I say finally, before we decide anything else. The Mitchell estate looms ahead of us, its massive windows glowing like warning beacons in the dusk. Cars are already lined along the circular driveway, every player already assembled for what they think is an anniversary celebration. Last chance to back out, Charlie murmurs, the briefcase full of evidence heavy in his grip. Emma steps up beside me, her voice tight. They're already inside. Hazel is with them. Jack's watching the door. I adjust my black dress, funeral appropriate, though no one knows that yet. Did you secure the exits? I ask quietly. Charlie nods. James's people are stationed at every door. Once you start, no one leaves until everything's out in the open. The envelope burns against my skin, tucked beneath the fabric of my dress. Laura's offer of silence still unopened, still a possibility. We enter through the kitchen. Caterers bustle around us, unaware they're serving the last supper of the Mitchell dynasty. Jack spots me immediately, relief flickering across his face before suspicion takes its place. He moves toward me, champagne glass in hand. Julia, he says softly. I didn't think you'd come. Julia, he says softly. I didn't think you'd come. And miss Laura's parties? My smile feels like shards of glass. I wouldn't dream of it. His gaze shifts from me to the briefcase Charlie carries, then to Emma, standing resolute at Hazel's side. I see the moment realization hits him, but Laura's voice cuts through the room. Everyone, please gather in the main hall. The crowd begins to shift, pulling us with it. I catch glimpses of familiar faces. Hazel, pale but composed. Laura's second husband, smiling obliviously. Jack's sister, clutching her children's hands. The children. My stomach twists. Laura raises her glass. Thank you all for coming to celebrate. Actually, I interrupt, stepping forward. My voice carries through the sudden quiet. I'd like to say something first. Jack moves toward me, panic in his eyes, but Charlie steps in his path. Emma positions herself near Hazel. Julia, Laura warns, her voice low. Think carefully about what you're doing. I pull out the envelope she gave me, still sealed. I've thought about it for weeks. About nothing else. I turn to the room, my voice steady despite the storm raging in my chest. About justice. About protection. About who deserves the truth and who deserves mercy. Jack's voice breaks through, raw with fear. Julia, whatever you think you know. I know everything, I say sharply, snapping open the briefcase. I don't pull out the documents yet, but the message is clear. About William's death. About the trust funds. About your 2 marriages. About Laura's schemes. And every lie you told to keep this house of cards standing. The room erupts into whispers. Hazel steps forward, her face ashen. Emma? Hazel's voice cracks. What is this? I'm sorry, Mom, Emma says, her voice trembling. I didn't know. Not until Julia showed me. Hazel's husband demands answers. Jack's sister clutches her children tighter, confusion etched across her face. I look at the children, their innocent futures dangling on my next words. Laura's envelope burns against my ribs. The truth, I say softly, is that I came here tonight to destroy everything. To expose decades of fraud and manipulation. To get justice for everyone who's been hurt by the Mitchell family's lies. I pull out the first document, William's real suicide note. Laura freezes, her expression finally breaking its perfect composure. But standing here, looking at all of them, I meet Jack's eyes and realize something worse than being deceived. Worse than being betrayed. Julia, Charlie warns, his voice sharp with caution. But I continue. It's becoming the very thing you're fighting against. I strike a match. When did I take it from my purse? It doesn't matter. I touch it to Laura's envelope. The paper catches quickly, flames devouring the lies within. I drop it into the briefcase. No. Charlie lunges forward, but it's too late. The evidence burns, years of careful investigation reduced to ash. And with it burns my chance at justice, revenge, everything I thought I wanted. The fire alarm shrieks. Sprinklers activate, sending water cascading over us. People rush for the exits, pushing past James's guards in the chaos. Through the smoke and spray, my eyes lock with Laura's. She knows what I've done. Chosen mercy over justice, chosen to protect the innocent over punishing the guilty. But her triumphant smile falters as I pull out my phone and press send. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's redemption. The police lights paint the estate's kitchen in alternating red and blue. Laura sits across from me at the marble island, both of us dripping from the sprinklers, watching officers carry out boxes of evidence. The real evidence. Not the decoy files I burned. Copies, I say quietly. Everything in that briefcase? Just copies. The originals went to the FBI an hour ago. Her perfectly manicured nails drum against her coffee cup. You chose this moment deliberately. The party, the family gathering. Like father, like daughter-in-law. I slide William's actual suicide note across the counter. He planned to expose everything at your anniversary party too, didn't he? Before the hunting accident. The drumming stops. Through the window, I see Jack being led to a police car. Charlie's standing nearby, his expression grim. You don't understand what you've done, Laura says, her voice trembling. Those trust funds were protecting people. I pull out my phone and show her the court orders. Every innocent beneficiary has been legally separated from the fraudulent accounts. The children will keep their college funds. The medical care continues. For the first time, real fear flickers in her eyes. How? I had 3 weeks after you gave me that envelope. 3 weeks where you thought you'd won. I lean forward. Did you really think I spent that time doing nothings? A commotion at the door draws our attention. Hazel enters, flanked by federal agents. Her eyes lock on Laura's. You killed him, Hazel says flatly. You killed William when he tried to protect my daughter from your schemes. Laura stands so abruptly her chair topples over. That's ridiculous. William was going to expose how you used Lily to access Hazel's company records, I interrupt. How you manipulated Jack into marrying both of us to maintain your financial facade. Everything I did was for this family, Laura snaps. No, Lily steps into the room, tear-streaked but steady. Everything you did was for yourself. And now we all know why. I slide one final document across the counter, an old photograph. Laura goes utterly still. William wasn't just trying to expose the fraud, was he? I say, watching her face crumble. He discovered something else. Something about Jack's real father. About why you needed the Carter family's connections so desperately. Mom. Jack's voice drifts in from outside, muffled but urgent. Mom, what's happening? Laura lunges for the photograph, but Hazel is faster. Her gasp echoes in the suddenly silent kitchen. That's my father, Hazel whispers. With Laura. 37 years ago. She turns to me, her voice trembling. 9 months before Jack was born. The truth hangs between us like smoke, the weight of decades of manipulation crashing down in an instant. Laura's perfect image, meticulously crafted, shatters before our eyes. You destroyed everything, Laura whispers. Just like William tried to. No, I stand, gathering the remaining documents. You destroyed everything the moment you chose lies over love. William tried to save us. All of us. And now, finally, he has. What do you mean? Laura's voice cracks. I pull out my phone one last time and show her the message chain. From a dead man's scheduled emails. Breadcrumbs he left for anyone brave enough to follow them. William knew he might not survive trying to expose you, so he made sure someone would. Laura's eyes widen as officers approach to escort her out. Through the window, I see Jack watching, his face pale as Hazel shows him the photograph. Understanding dawns in his expression, and with it, devastation. Was it worth it? Laura asks as they lead her away. Burning everything down to save a dead man's honor? I think of the children upstairs, their futures now secure. Of Lily and Hazel, finally free from manipulation. Of William, who died trying to protect us all. Some things, I say quietly, are worth burning for. The sun rises over the estate, painting the ruins of the Mitchell dynasty in gold. In the distance, sirens fade. Charlie stands beside me, his hand resting gently on my shoulder. You okay? He asks. I watch as Laura disappears into the back of a police car, her empire crumbling behind her. No, I admit honestly. But I will be. Because sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes it just shows you who you really are. The last box from Jack's study sits unopened on my kitchen counter. Through the window, autumn leaves scatter across the yard where 3 kids once promised to be friends forever. My phone buzzes. A message from Lily. Hazel wants to meet both of us. The trial ended yesterday. Laura and Jack, both guilty. The headlines called it justice. The society pages called it scandal. Neither captured the truth. I lift the lid on the box, expecting more evidence. Instead, I find an old video camera, the kind we used that summer before college, when everything still felt possible. The doorbell rings. Lily stands there, looking smaller somehow. More like the girl I used to know than the woman who helped unravel everything. I found mine too, she says, holding up an identical camera. In Mom's attic. We set them on the counter, relics of who we used to be. Neither of us reaches to turn them on. Did you read Jack's statement? She asks. No, I pour us both coffee, a habit from before, when friendship was simple. Did you? Her laugh is brittle. He said he loved us both. And for a moment, I actually believed it. I slide her cup across the counter, my voice steady. That's Jack, I say. Living his own truth, even when it's a lie. The afternoon light catches the cameras on the counter, their lenses casting twin shadows on the wall. Emma brushes her fingers against one gently. We should watch them, she murmurs. Before Hazel arrives. Before we decide what happens next. I nod. We both know Hazel's meeting isn't just about reconciliation. It's about the future of her company, about trust and second chances, about whether some bridges can be rebuilt after they've burned to ash. I connect the first camera to my laptop. The screen flickers to life, and there we are, young, laughing, whole. Jack is behind the camera, narrating with the enthusiasm of someone who thinks the world is his to shape. It's our last summer together, before college, before choices. Before we learned how love and lies could wear the same face. Stop, Emma says suddenly, her voice tight. I pause the video. The frame freezes on our younger selves sharing some forgotten joke. But it's Jack's reflection in the window that catches my eye, the way he watches us both. The calculating expression. Planning, even then. He didn't destroy us, I say softly, the realization sinking in. He just showed us who we already were. Emma's brows knit together. What do you mean? You always wanted adventure. I always needed control. He just weaponized those truths. Emma's coffee sits untouched, growing cold. The second camera remains dark and unwatched on the counter. Some truths, I'm learning, don't need to be seen to be understood. Now we choose, I say, meeting her eyes. Not between right and wrong. Between easy and true. The doorbell rings again. Hazel. Before Emma moves to answer, she grips my hand. Her voice drops to a whisper. I'm sorry. Not for loving him, but for forgetting how to love you first. I squeeze her hand in return, remembering Laura's final words at the trial, love makes liars of us all. Maybe, I say, we stop trying to fix the past. Maybe we just build something new. She nods, understanding the weight of what I'm not saying, about Hazel's company, about second chances, about how sometimes revenge isn't about destroying what was, but creating what could be. I open the door to Hazel. She carries herself differently now, straighter, stronger, free from decades of manipulation. The autumn wind scatters leaves across the yard, a reminder of change. Somewhere, in a prison cell, Laura plots her appeals. In another place, Jack writes letters we'll never read. Life moves forward, messy and imperfect. The cameras stay on the counter, untouched. Some memories don't need revisiting. Some truths are better lived than remembered. Hazel spreads papers across my kitchen table, plans for rebuilding, for moving forward. Emma and I exchange glances, remembering other papers, other plans, other choices. Ready?
Hazel asks.
I think of William, setting truth bombs to detonate years after his death. Of Laura, building walls to protect secrets that were never worth keeping. Of Jack, loving so desperately he forgot how to love honestly. Yes, I say and mean it, because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free.